If you were old enough in 2008, you remember the moment. Not the graphs, the feeling. The day you realized even the smart people were guessing. Banks that had existed for decades collapsed in weeks. Institutions that felt permanent suddenly looked fragile. And the question changed. It wasn't how much can I earn? It became, is this safe? That emotional pivot is what moves markets, not formulas, mood. There is a moment before every boom when doubt feels outdated. In 1928, shoe shiners in New York were offering stock advice, not quietly, confidently. In 1999, companies with no profits went public and doubled in value within days. In 2006, mortgage brokers approved loans for people with no income verification and called it innovation. Different decades, same atmosphere. Optimism thick in the air. And optimism spreads. John Maynard Keynes called this force animal spirits. He didn't mean chaos. He meant impulse, the instinct to act when certainty is impossible. Because the future is always uncertain. Yet economies move anyway. Why? Because confidence fills the gap. Investment is never purely mechanical. It is emotional courage disguised as calculation. An entrepreneur does not launch a company because risk is zero. She launches because she feels the timing is right. A bank does not expand lending because every variable is known. It expands because the outlook feels stable. Feeling precedes action. Action creates growth. Growth reinforces the feeling, and the loop accelerates. Booms begin quietly. A few success stories, a few visible fortunes, a few bold narratives. Then something subtle happens. Comparison. Your neighbor profits, your colleague invests, your friend buys property. Hesitation begins to feel like loss. And when hesitation feels costly, risk feels necessary. Confidence compounds. Bubbles do not start with stupidity. They start with reinforcement. Rising prices confirm optimism. Optimism drives buying. Buying pushes prices higher. It feels rational. It feels intelligent. Until the feedback loop reverses. In 1929, nothing physical vanished overnight. Factories still stood. Workers still had skills. But conviction evaporated. Investors stopped trusting projections. Banks stopped trusting borrowers. Borrowers stopped trusting the system. And once trust fractures, logic cannot repair it instantly. Mood turns. And when mood turns, leverage becomes dangerous. Ambition becomes exposure. Confidence becomes embarrassment. Think again about 2008. Before the collapse, real estate felt safe. Banks expanded. Families stretched. Developers built entire neighborhoods. Then a few defaults. A few institutions wobble. A few terrifying headlines. And suddenly, everyone asks the same question. Who is exposed? Exposure becomes contagious. Fear spreads faster than optimism ever did. Because fear protects. Optimism expands. Protection contracts immediately. Fear does not need consensus. It needs doubt. Once doubt enters the system, every decision becomes defensive. Hiring slows, spending pauses, investments are reconsidered. And because millions of individuals act defensively at once, the economy shrinks. Not because resources disappeared, because belief did. Animal spirits are asymmetric. Optimism builds slowly. Fear moves instantly. That asymmetry explains why crashes feel sudden and recoveries feel slow. Recovery requires renewed courage. Courage requires visible stability. Stability requires time. But fear requires only uncertainty. This is what makes mood so powerful. It scales. One banker hesitates, nothing changes. 10 banks hesitate, credit tightens. Thousands hesitate, investment collapses. Mood is social. It is not private psychology. It is synchronized expectation. Consider the late 1990s again. Technology felt transformative. The internet was expanding rapidly. That was real. But valuations detached from earnings. Risk tolerance expanded. Investors bought not because cash flow justified it, but because everyone believed someone else would buy higher. That belief held until it didn't. The mood shifted, and valuations collapsed faster than they rose. Ask yourself honestly, have you ever bought something not because you fully understood it, but because everyone else seemed confident? A stock, a house, a career move. Now ask the reverse. Have you ever avoided something not because it lacked opportunity, but because the atmosphere felt uncertain? That hesitation, multiplied across millions, becomes contraction. Animal spirits are not irrationality. They are navigation tools. When data is incomplete, emotion fills the gap. Without this instinct, no innovation would begin. No investor would fund an uncertain idea. No builder would start a risky project. Civilization requires boldness, but boldness amplified collectively creates fragility. Fragility amplified collectively creates crisis. The most dangerous phase of a boom is not greed. It is certainty. When people stop asking, what if we're wrong? When confidence becomes identity. When rising wealth feels deserved rather than provisional. That is when risk accumulates silently. And the most dangerous phase of a crash is not panic. It is paralysis. When fear becomes reasonable, when safety becomes the only priority, when protection overrides ambition. That is when contraction feeds itself. Keynes understood this dynamic. Markets are not self-correcting in a smooth line. They are cyclical because human emotion is cyclical. Hope expands, fear contracts. Expansion overshoots, contraction overshoots, and stability lies somewhere between them. If you were watching markets during 2008, you saw how quickly certainty dissolved. If you are watching markets today, you are watching mood form again. Confidence building in some sectors, caution in others. Narratives rising, narratives questioned. The cycle never disappears, it evolves. The question is not whether animal spirits exist. They do. The question is whether we can recognize them before they dominate us, before optimism blinds us, before fear freezes us. Prosperity is not built solely on capital. It is built on shared belief. Shared belief that the future can be shaped. Shared belief that risk is manageable. Shared belief that effort will be rewarded. When that belief aligns, economies surge. When it fractures, they retreat. Civilizations move because enough people feel confident at the same time. They slow when enough people feel uncertain at the same time. Animal spirits are not an anomaly. They are the engine, and engines create motion. But without awareness, they also create cycles. Boom, overreach, correction, fear, renewed confidence, repeat. In the next episode, we confront the tension this creates. If mood drives expansion and contraction, should governments attempt to stabilize it? Or does intervention distort the very instincts that drive growth? For now, remember this. Markets are not moved by numbers alone. They are moved by belief, and belief is powerful, contagious, and never permanent.